You remember when the left was out of control with all of the Antifa and Black Lives Matter stuff? Case in point, the Chicago ambush that I covered, which definitely seemed to be a coordination between Black Lives Matter and Antifa, which was not a strange thing to happen at all. Remember then, a lot of left-wingers vanished. Didn't really see a lot of comments from left-wingers on my channel. Certainly a lot of right-wingers were commenting. They love that stuff. Now that the right-wing are the ones who are out of control and just off the tracks, I don't really see a lot of conservatives commenting on my videos anymore. So when you call out the left vanishes. When you call out the right vanishes. When I call out the left, I was looked at as a right-winger. Not that I'm calling out the right, not because I'm choosing to do so, but I'm reacting to the insanity that's happening right now, just like I reacted to the insanity that was happening back then. Both partisan sides, both tribes, can't handle the truth. So, in the spirit of that, I'm going to produce yet another video that's not going to get a lot of views, not going to get a lot of likes, not going to get a lot of support or engagement, because I'm not here to make people feel good. I'm here to tell people the truth, right? If you're a left-winger, I'm not on your team. If you're a right-winger, I'm not on your team. If you're centrist, I'm not on your team. If you're a truth seeker, if you live in reality and you want to embrace knowledge, in terms of knowing as much about reality as possible, I'm your ally. I'm on that team, right? Nonpartisan, not just as a cool statement, but as a reality, right? I'm a political dissident. That's what I am, right? Independent voter, politically dissident. So that being said, let's talk about the border stuff, the border talking points. One of the talking points that I hear from left-wingers, I recently saw a video on breaking points, and my good friend Ryan Grimm was talking about how we have a labor crisis, a lot of unfilled jobs. And I think he, interestingly enough, the right wing on the show, Emily, said that he's for open borders. Now, open borders is generally a GOP and right-wing influencer or elite talking point. Joe Biden has deported more people, I think, than any other president. He's definitely not an open borders president. He's definitely not an open borders administration. They are very happy to deport people. Obama was putting people in cages, right? There is no open borders in reality, right? The border is definitely very much controlled, very much policed, and there's very much a lot of deportation and efforts to stop people from crossing into the country illegally. That is reality, right? However, she referred to, and again, that's the reality. That's what's happening as far as the administration and our government. Now, Ryan Grimm's partisan opinions, I mean, that's him. That's his personal opinions, right? But I'm talking about what's actually happening, what the government is doing. Ryan Grimm, he didn't acknowledge open borders, but she called him open borders, and he didn't challenge it. So I guess he's open borders. But anyway, what the argument that he made was we have a lot of we need the labor, right? And it's not a net negative. They're not just coming in and sucking up resources. They're actually providing labor, which we need. A lot of jobs Americans don't want to do, and they're fulfilling these jobs, right? Just like the right wing, the deception and the propaganda is not just pure lies. There is some truth to it, right? So the reality is these undocumented people are providing, in terms of, they're not just taking away, they are providing stuff, right? When they purchase stuff, they're stimulating the economy, right? They need to buy stuff, right? They're stimulating the economy. And then if you're undocumented, you're not getting benefits, right? So you're paying all these taxes, right? Which we're all benefiting from, and then you're not getting the benefits that a documented citizen is. Good on him for pointing out some of the realities of the positives of immigration. However, this argument that we have a lot of unfilled jobs, we have a labor crisis, which is true. The idea that all of these immigrants, I don't mean that literally, it's not an absolute statement, but in general, the massive influx of immigrants is actually not that big of a deal because, we have all these open jobs, right? That is the sort of surface level thinking that someone like Ryan Grimm might want to point out coming from the right wing about stuff the right wing talks about at a very, very surface level. But here he is doing the same type of thing. He would also call out mainstream media for also giving this kind of surface level analysis. The surface level analysis goes like this. We have a lot of unfilled jobs. Many of these jobs are the types of jobs that a lot of Americans don't want. A bunch of immigrants coming in, logically, these are the type of people who will take any job. So logically, you'd think, well, just having a bunch of immigrants coming in, they're just going to fill these jobs, which is actually good for the economy, right? Well, if we actually think a little bit deeper, right? If we don't be just like mainstream media that we like to mock, and I don't do that, right? I have a lot of problems with mainstream media, but mainstream media doesn't have a unique issue. I mean, there's some unique issues, but overall, it's not really about mainstream media. It's about for-profit media, right? It's the profit-driven sort of structure that is a problem. And independent media exists mostly for profit. So therefore, they find themselves in the same situation in mainstream media, which is focusing on driving views and clicks versus informing the public. And this seems like kind of an example of that, right? Let's just take these two basic things, a bunch of unopened jobs, unfilled jobs, and a bunch of people who could potentially fill those jobs. Seems like it'd work out, right? But if we think deeper, if we do better, people in glass houses, if we do better than the mainstream media, and if we do better than, ironically, a lot of independent media, and we go further than that. I'm a political dissident. I'm nonpartisan, and my goal here is to seek truth. I reject partisan right-wingers, left-wingers, and the so-called enlightened centrists. This type of content is not in high demand. Most people want to be pandered to. They want validation of their ideas. Being that I reject all tribes, the YouTube algorithm doesn't like this type of content. So I'm knowingly putting out videos that I know is going to get low views, low engagement, and hardly any likes. So if you're part of that very small part of the population that actually wants to know the truth, rather than to have their ideology validated, make sure you support the channel and click on the like and write a comment below and subscribe. I guarantee you this video will be massively suppressed, just like most of my videos. But I keep doing the same thing anyway because I'm not here for fame, I'm not here to make money, I'm here to get people to unplug from partisan media and tribalism. If you support that vision, support the channel, click on the like button. Yes, it would seem as a logical assertion, right? If I didn't think too deep about it and I was listening to Ryan, I'd be like, it's a good point, like most progressives probably will do listening to him. But rather than doing that, I did something that is very foreign in this country. I actually did my own research, right? And doing my own research, I did it in the correct way. The correct way is not for you to basically seek out someone else's research that aligns with your point of view and then assert that you did your own research, right? So someone else does research and all their research points to that you are correct. So then you go and you use that material to say, see, I looked into it and I was actually correct. No, that's not doing your own research. I actually did my own research in that I did the math myself, right? I looked at the raw numbers, did calculations based on ratio of the amount of new immigrants coming in. So this is the kind of thing that somebody else would do who might have certain sort of incentives to paint things in a certain way. So rather than me looking at somebody else's data, I got my own data. I looked at the raw numbers. I looked at the amount of immigrants coming in per year. First I started out with ratios. Ratios didn't really seem to give me what I was looking for because I was trying to look for sort of an impact of the unfilled jobs being impacted basically by the increase in immigrants. So what I was looking at is a percentage increase. So for every percentage increase of new immigrants, what do we see happening with the unfilled jobs? Now, I did this understanding that this is not going to be, this is not considering all the variables, right? You can't just look at the percentage increase in immigrants and then look at the percentage of unfilled jobs. And that's like the definitive, you've looked at everything, right? Because this is a complex topic. There's a lot of other factors that are relevant. So case in point, there are factors that could influence the amount of unfilled jobs that might not be directly related to the influx of immigrants, but it would be reflected in the data, right? You'll see the number of unfilled jobs changing, right? Even though the reason for the change has nothing to do with immigrants, right? You can go and take from it like, oh, so all the changes in unfilled jobs is coming directly from immigrants. No, but there's other factors as well, right? There's many other factors. However, that being said, what I did find was that there was no significant benefit in terms of filling up the unfilled jobs. Although you'd think logically that would make sense, but I don't care about my feelings and opinions. I care about what the data showed. And what I found with the data was the effect of the unfilled jobs pre-pandemic and post-pandemic are largely the same. The only big difference I saw was right in the middle of the pandemic. I think 2020 and 2021, things went way out of control. You saw a massive I think it was a massive increase in the open jobs, right? A bunch of open jobs came. I think one year was like 100% or 90% or something like that. I don't remember what the numbers are, but only those 2 years, there was a significant deviation. When I looked at the few years before and a few years after, so 2022, 2023, 2024, it kind of looked like the numbers before the pandemic, right? Now, this is a very significant finding in my view, because we've seen massive increases in immigrants coming in that we've never seen before. Right-wing partisans would like to blame it on Biden's open border policies, right? The talking point, created by elites that we have regular everyday people literally just repeating the words that are given to them, right? But the reality is, for the massive increase in immigration or people coming into the country, I didn't really see a significant impact on these unfilled positions, right? The unfilled positions were, I think I saw some years it was down 4%, then the next year down 5%. Then after the pandemic, it's those kind of numbers. I'm seeing like a -4%, -5%. I mean, it's really, really not significant, not massively significant. I'm sure if you really, really dive into the details, you might be able to find some small benefit. But here's the thing. If a massive increase in immigrants doesn't result in any majorly significant change in terms of these unfilled positions, then I don't think this is something that is worth arguing in favor of. Because think about it. If you increase your spending, your advertising spending by, 100%, and you see let's say even 1 or 2% increase in sales, I don't think that's an argument that this is a good strategy, because the amount of money you're spending, to get, 100 times the amount that you were spending before, that kind of increase in spending to only get a 1 or 2% increase in sales, it doesn't balance out. That's lopsided. I mean, it would seem that you're spending way more money than you're gaining in terms of by the increased sales. So if a massive increase in immigrants coming to the country doesn't give some majorly whoa record breaking change in this unfilled job market, or jobs that are hard to fill, being filled, then again, this is not a strong argument, because that means for us to really, really address the problem this way with actual open borders, not as talking about, but actual open borders, which apparently Ryan is for, you would have to have so many immigrants coming in. I mean, it would just be insane. You're talking about, I don't know, 40 million immigrants a year, 50 million, 100 million immigrants a year. I mean, the number of immigrants that you have to bring in, if this amount of massive increase in immigrants doesn't produce a majorly significant change in terms of these unopened positions, then you would have to just bring in such an insane amount of immigrants, which is already insane as it is, that it's just, again, if 100% increase in spending in advertising brings you 1% increase in sales, I think a change in strategy is the logical way. But you never get to even think about these things when you're doing a surface level analysis like Ryan Grimm is. And in theory, Ryan Grimm might actually be aware of more information that supports his argument, but the fact that he doesn't present this more information, it's still problematic, right? If he knows something that I don't know that makes this somehow make sense, then please present the evidence. Please present that information so we can be so informed. But I'm looking at the data and I just don't see it. Regardless of what you feel about immigration, whether it's a good thing or a bad thing or whatever, that's not what I'm talking about here. I'm simply talking about the reality that the idea that the massive increase in immigrants is not that big of a deal because it actually helps us with filling these jobs. That argument just doesn't stand up, right? It just doesn't stand up. I'm sorry, it doesn't stand up. And this is what happens when you don't exist in a tribe and you just, focus on the facts and reality, and you're not just doing confirmation bias and, starting with your conclusion and working your way backwards from that, which is what a lot of right-wingers do, and Ryan Grimm will like to call them out for that. But here he is doing the same thing, right? Acting like mainstream media, surface-level analysis. Acting like right-wing media, working backwards from his conclusion, right? And partisan thinking, tribal thinking, will allow, this kind of, sort of dialogue to be effective. Again, I think the average progressive listening to Ryan Grimm is not going to think beyond what they're being told. It aligns with what they want to be true, right? Our side is for immigration's good, whatever, and he's creating an argument that sounds, it sounds good. Hey, we unequal positions and it's going to help them, right? They're not going to be like, but wait a minute, does it really? And what does the data show? What are the numbers, right? We just unfortunately don't have a lot of people with inquisitive minds to think about stuff like that. We just for the record, I live in an area that's seen a lot of immigrants being sent here, and I haven't seen much of an impact at all, one or the other. I mean, we still have all these unfilled jobs, and I don't see any significant drop in available jobs. So it's not like before all these immigrants came here, we had a decent amount of jobs. It was easy enough to find a job for citizens. And now with all these immigrants, people are struggling to find jobs. I'm not seeing it. And one of the reasons for that is a lot of the jobs that people are occupying in the local community, people on the lower end of the spectrum in terms of income, I mean, they're still the leaders in those jobs. Like when I go to the retail stores, the people at the retail stores, they're not illegal immigrants. Right? In general, I'm not really seeing the only place I see illegal immigrants really are in the Home Depot parking lot, right? So another impact and another location they might be in is in the hotels. So maybe some hotels don't have as much rooms anymore because they're taken up by these immigrants. But in terms of the job market, I'm not seeing an impact here, one or the other. I'm not seeing that job openings have dropped or they've increased, or people are able to fill jobs more. And And if you ask, so where are all these immigrants going? Like, they have to be working somewhere. Well, they're working in places that I don't see and most people don't see. And therefore, we're not really seeing a major impact in contrast to the rhetoric. For example, I know for a fact that one of the restaurants I go to, one of the chefs is an illegal immigrant. I'm pretty sure in agriculture, any of the agricultural farms in the area, I'm sure that's where you're probably going to see them. But this is not a majority of the jobs in the area, right? This is not something that would affect in a major way employment. Now, I'm not saying that no one has any issues anywhere and there's no negative impacts, but I'm just saying, again, the rhetoric versus reality, yet again, is not quite the same. There's some areas that have some serious problems. I've seen some areas in Chicago, for example, like these tent cities and stuff like that. That's taking it to another level. I've seen some things in New York City where there's some major negative impacts of local shops. So there's certainly areas that are having problems. But overall, in general, it's not an automatic, because you have a bunch of immigrants coming in, it's destroying everything, right? I'm in a high immigrant area in terms of a lot of illegals are here, legals and illegals. And I'm not really seeing the impact. We want to hear stuff that makes us feel good, makes us feel like we're on the right side, our opinions are validated, right? And if you're validating our opinions, then it's like, oh, that's fine enough for us. I'm a right winger, and you telling me the woke stuff, it's really a problem. Oh, great, yes, I knew it. Those morons, right? That's what I want to hear. I'm not sitting there like, wait a minute. Is the woke stuff really like, what's the argument you're making about the woke stuff? They're not thinking like that. They're just like, oh, my side is against woke. You're saying woke is horrible. Oh, right? My side is against immigration, right? My side is pro letting people come to the country. And Ryan Grimm's making an argument why that makes sense. Oh, open jobs. Okay. Right? That's how Americans think. I mean, we're basically becoming a nation of lemmings, right? We are a nation of puppets. Our strings are being pulled by algorithms, politicians, online influencers, social media. This is what happens when people just sit there and don't take control of their ideology and their thoughts and their opinions. They're just allowing other people to think for them. You have your thought leaders giving you these ideas, or you're just taking it in, and just nodding your head. Idiocracy. That's where we're at in 2024. This is the Debate Me channel. Debate me in the comment section below. Click on the like button, subscribe, smash that bell. Be well.